When one graduates from the childlike drawing style that we have as young kids, where we would typically have a face like this and arms and legs like this, also known as stick people. So one of the main changes from that style of drawing to a more realistic style of drawing involves interpretation of a structure in 3 dimensions. So instead of a pancake flat face like that, so now we also see that a person doesn't have just simply a round face. They usually have like an oval type of face, and the ears, they have ears on the side of the head. The eyes are typically set below a brow, eyebrows, and then a nose would be subtending from between the eyes, lips below the nose. You might see some part of the nostrils. You would see pupil or irises and pupils in the eye. If you want to get detailed, you'd have eyebrows here. And then of course you can have hair to any degree that you wish. These are the differences as you age in your visual recognition or ability to depict various features of the face, the human face, compared to when you're a child of a year or 2 or 3 old. As one progresses further with drawing, you can either interpret this as simply circles on a page, depicting balls on a substance, on a floor, for example. Or they could be some other kind of a structure that we have yet to finish off. But anyhow, if these were to be balls, what types of things do we have to do to these to make them look more like balls? They have the shape of balls. The main thing is contouring. So contouring with light and shade to make these flat circles look like solid spheres that are casting shade on the one side, catching light on the other side. Now, if these are all set within the same environment, they should all cast or have shade on the same side of them. So they'd be catching light from the same light source over here, whether it's a window or a light or various other light sources. So already you can see these are looking a lot more like 3-dimensional objects. But if this is indeed a floor that these spheres are sitting on, then we need shade on the floor itself. Shade goes this way because the light's coming from here, creating shade on the ball, which creates shade on the floor. Now, the angle of incidence of the light would determine where the shade goes to. For example, if the light is coming from here, you can see that the upper end of the shade should be somewhere in here. Same for this ball, so I could extend this one out maybe a bit. And then this one that goes off the page. The shade becomes darker the closer to the subject. It diffuses out further away from the subject. So the darkest shade is close right up to the subject. And then as it becomes as it gets further from the object, it becomes more diffuse until it fades away. So there, now we have relatively realistic looking balls. depending what kind of balls they are. You could have baseballs in which they'd have the the stitching coming in like this around the sides, for example, which would obviously make these look more like real baseballs if that was the kind of ball you were depicting. Anyhow, that gives an idea of how we can draw three-dimensional objects using contouring, basically shade only. Now we had to know how the shade would react on a circular three-dimensional form. For example, if we had just drawn a simple circle and then divided it in half and shaded this side, that wouldn't really be very accurate as far as how a ball in nature would look with light on it. This is more almost reflective of a planet in space where there's no atmosphere to diffuse the light. It's just strictly light on one side, and after you crest the terminator of the planet, it becomes pitch black. Now there would be a bit of diffusion here, but it's a lot less than a structure on Earth with atmosphere and ambient light hitting the ball coming from the ground up as well. So there's light bouncing up from the ground in front of the ball, but the brightest light is the part that's being cast directly onto the closest surface of the ball. That's bright, and it would get somewhat less as you go out.